So the story goes that Ansel Rothschild, who was from the richest people in the world, although people say if he would have been a Melamed, if he would have been a Rebbe, he would have been even more rich because he would have gotten the tips on Hanukkah, but basically he was from the wealthiest people that ever lived on the world. The kings and queens said, maybe one day we'll have as much money as Rabbi Fischel had. Rabbi Fischel was also a very big Baal Tzedakah. Many people lined up. So the story goes like this, that it was getting out of hand. So they made a takana. They said whoever comes to ask for tzedakah from Rabbi Fischel, he has one word to get his request out. No long speeches. You have to get it all into one word. So one little Polish, a Yid from Poland says, I'm going to go. Borrows money from his friends. And he travels to Rabbi Fischel, and they let him in. He said, you know about the new takana, right? He says, yes, I know about the new takana. It's not a problem. And he comes in, and Rothschild says to him, no. So he says, Gemara. He says, what Gemara? Who Gemara? What do you want? What is Gemara? He says, Roshei Tevot. So what's the Roshei Tevos? Good morning, Rabbi Fischel. Good morning, Rabbi Fischel. Says, great. Now, what? You didn't come all the way from Poland to tell me good morning. So remember, you have one word. No problem. Gemara. He says, what Gemara? What Gemara? He says, Gimel Meidlach, Rabbi Fischel. I have 3 girls. Okay, so what do you want from me that you have 3 girls? He goes, Gemara. What's the Gemara? He says, Geb Mamoin, Rabbi Fischel. Give money, please. He says, okay, cute. Is that it? He gives him something. He says, what do you have to say before you leave? He says, Gemara. He says, what Gemara now? He says, Geb me, Rabbi Fischel. Give a little more, please, Rabbi Fischel. So he says, I heard from Yaakov Galinsky, he says, everything is in the Gemara. Everything is. Just have to know how to put it together. I remember when I was teaching, so one of the things that I'm very not good at is digduk. And one of the things that I'm even worse in is spelling. And today we have an age where melamdim, everything is in sheets. You know, we teach with sheets. We used to teach with our mouth, with our heart. Today we teach with sheets. Okay. Torah Shebiktav. And I would give these homework sheets, and my spelling was off. And to my luck, one of the parents in my school, in my class, he was a digduk teacher. And he went to complain to the menahel, he complained to the principal. This, you have one of your rebbeim gives out the homework sheets. Look at this. This is not good. This can't go on like this. What's going to be over here? So he told me, be careful with your spelling. I said, you can't be careful with your spelling, because how are you careful with your spelling? If you know how to spell the word, you spell it right. If you don't know how to spell the word, so you don't know you're spelling it wrong. I said, how do you be careful with your spelling? Then suddenly I had an idea. At the bottom of my sheet, I wrote, and you also get an extra 2 points for every spelling mistake that you find. Just circle it. As if to say, I'm training them to find these spelling mistakes, and therefore they're going to circle and get an extra 2 points. So it accomplished 2 things. First of all, this boy whose father was the digduk teacher, he cheated. His father circled all the things for him. So I learned some spelling. And second of all, I took my handicap, I took my problem, and I turned it into beracha. There's going to be a time that these 9 days are going to be converted to beracha. They're going to be converted to simcha. In general, it is brought down in the Svarim HaKadoshim that for every amount of pain or tsar that a person experiences down here on this world, assuming that he is not what is called boet b'yisurim, assuming that he takes it in stride to the best that's humanly possible, because we are human beings, that is converted to bracha, that is converted to simcha. And a person who has no pain or no challenge down here on this world, he really has nothing to come to the Olam HaEmet with, because there's nothing to convert to bracha. It's like digging a foundation for a building. When they dug the World Trade Center, the first World Trade Center, Olav Shalom, they dug so deep, they got to bedrock. You know, the deeper you dig, the higher the building. And the more challenged the person is down here in this world, then the more that waits for him in the Olam HaEmet. If you will notice, in Parshas Pinchas, we have all the Karban Musaf, that is the afternoon carbon, the Shabbat carbon, Yom Tov carbon, that is added on Yom Tov. Between each of the Yomim Tovim, there is a Samach. A Samach represents a break between two Parshiot. Between Shavuot and Rosh Hashanah, there isn't a Samach. Between Shavuot and Rosh Hashanah, there is a pay. A pay represents much more of a hefsek, much more of a breakup, of a stop between two Parshiot. And the answer is that HaKadosh Baruch Hu left the seam over there. Because between Shavuot and Rosh Hashanah, there eventually will come another Yom Tov. Tisha B'Av will be converted to Yom Tov. So Hashem put in a break so that you could later separate it and put in the Yom Tov that's going to come with the days of Tisha B'Av that are afterwards. But right now we're still building the foundation. And the more we understand the depth of the foundation, then the greater the building. So we refer to these days from Rosh Chodesh Av until Tisha B'Av as the 9 days. What does the 9 days mean? It means different things for different people. Some people are very excited. It's their chance to make exotic cheese, eggplant suppers, fish dinners, all kinds of things, pizza galore. A lot of people like milchik. But clearly that was not the intent, the minhag Ashkenazim, not to eat meat the 9 days. Not the fish dinner. How does that story go? The waiter comes in, he says, I was fired for no reason. For no reason. You probably said something negative about the establishment. He said, absolutely not. A man came in, he asked for fish. So I brought out fish. He says, really, you have this type of fish? He says, of course we have this type of fish. Last week you had it also? He says, this same fish has been here for 6 weeks already. What are you talking about? I once asked someone to pay me something that he owed me. He said his minhag is he doesn't pay chovot in the 9 days. Doesn't pay up money in the 9 days because it's a simcha to pay. You know, everyone interprets things according to what's good for them. So let us try to interpret the 9 days properly. Let us try to interpret it in such a way that indeed the foundations that we are building, we're digging a foundation that is going to lay the groundwork for the building that is going to follow. In Torah Vodaath, we had a principal who was a very, very special person. It's one of the great Talmidim of Shraga Feivel Mendelovich. His name was Rev Nesanel Quinn, Zecher Tzadik Levracha. Rev Nesanel lived in the 90s, very special person, walked straight with a smile on his face. He had a level of bitachon, he had a level of emunah that under normal circumstances, I don't think most of us have. I remember as a boy, I was maybe 16 years old, we were walking from Borough Park to Kensington to a Shalom Zacher Friday night, and the locals bombarded us with bottles and 2x4s, and everybody ran off in different directions. And Rav Quinn, who then was in his 70s, he kept walking. He says, at night, I put my hand on when I leave my house, I put my hand on the mezuzah, I say, Hashem yishmarcha mikol ra, yishmor es nafshecha. He says, I'm not scared. Not scared of beams. And we all ran off, which was a very big wrong on our part. We left the old man alone. But, you know, when you see a 2x4 coming your way, it's hard to think rationally. And he kept walking, and nothing hit him. That's how he lived. So fast forward, he's now over 90 years old. Walks erect, straight, a smile. And he comes, somebody drives him, the driver told me the story, to the nursing home, here a local nursing home in this area, to visit someone. He's visiting Nebuch, an old, broken man in his 70s. He's in his 90s. And he talks to him, he's mechazek him, he comes outside. The driver says it's cold outside. He says to Rav Quinn, please stay here in the lobby a little bit, and I'm going to go get the car. And he's standing there, mind you, a 90-year-old person. It's late at night in a nursing home. And in comes the security guard. He says to Rav Quinn, "What are you doing here? Go back to your room." He says, "No, I'm not a patient here." Right. And he starts grabbing him and pulling him. Meanwhile, the driver comes. He says, "What are you doing? That's the principal at Torah Vodaath." Anyway, and he's on the phone, the security guard, who's missing a patient, whatever. They straightened it all out. He apologized. So they started walking toward the car. So Rav Quinn said, "I need a moment. I need a moment to think. Let me sit down a second." So he said, "Did the guard hurt you?" He says, No, he didn't hurt me. Just give me a moment." He says, "Oh, I got it." There was a smile on his face. So this Yid, his name was Shmuel Vaitel, he was driving him. He said to him, What's the smile? So he said, "In my life, I learned from my Rebbeim, something happens to you, which could be somewhat, let's say, a little bit unpleasant. So what do? I make a cheshbon hanefesh, why Hashem did this to me. Every challenge in life is to make us better people. Every situation in life that bogs us down, it's only to make us better. The greater the challenge, the greater we can rise." I said, "Why did this happen to me? Why did he grab me? And why did he start pulling me like this?" And I said to myself, it must be Hashem is upset that I am not going around enough with a big enough smile on my face. I'm 90 years old. Hashem gave me life. I should walk around with a bigger simchat hachayim. If I had a bigger simchat hachayim on my face, he would have not thought that I'm a patient over here. So therefore, I have to make myself a better person. Imagine we had this mindset. Instead of screaming at your wife, at your husband, "How dare you say that, how dare you accuse me?" Stop. I'm right, I'm wrong. How do I become a better person? Imagine how much more shalom bayis there would be on this world, how much more simchat hachayim. And, sorry for those of you who love pizza, I think if more of us acted that way, then you would be able to eat steak this year, even on Tisha B'Av. Which could still happen, by the way. Now let's try to understand. What does the word avelus mean in Avil, Rahman al-Islam? The translation of the word avelus is mourning. What is mourning? In the Torah we find in Parshas Miketz that the brothers came to buy bread, and all of a sudden they come into Walmart, and here comes the CEO of Walmart, the king, the Mishnah L'Melech HaMitzrayim, and he says, "Spies!" What? What spies? "Who are you?" They don't know what hit them. And he grabs away one of their brothers, and they were totally not ready for this. How did this happen? Ma'kara, what happened? So what do the brothers say? They say, "Aval Hashemim anachnu. Asher inu tzaras," right? We saw his tzaras nafshoy b'schananoi aleinu. He begged us not to sell him, and we sold him anyway. It's very interesting. The Rechaim HaKadosh says, or I think one of the Mefarshei HaChumash say, the brothers felt that they were supposed to sell Yosef. They didn't regret it. They just said that we should have had Rachmanut on him, even if he was wrong. But either way, Aval Hashemim anachnu. So the word Hashemim means what? Guilt, right? Shamnu b'gadlu. What does the word Aval mean? If you take a look in Rashi, I believe today's Rashi's yahrzeit. Okay? I said this last week. Who was the first one that learned Chumash with Rashi? Anyone know? They say Rashi's father was the first one that learned Chumash with Rashi. Okay. You know that when Rashi wrote the Chumash, revealed great secrets there. There was a great Kabbalist, Shamshin Astropolo. Shamshin Astropolo was killed in the pogroms of 1648. 1640, Tach v'Tat, year Tov Ches and Tov Tes. Bogdan Chelnitsky rose the peasants up against the Jews, and almost a third of the Jewish population of that time was destroyed in horrible, horrible massacres. 2/3 of Klal Yisrael was saved. They say that Rav Shamshin Astropolo took upon himself a third, another tzaddik took upon himself another third. And Rav Shamshin said when he realized he was going to pass away, because he had volunteered, so he said he wants to reveal all of the great secrets that he knows of Torah. So he wrote a pirush that revealed all of the great secrets, all of the great. And then he had a dream. They said, you can't give it out. These are great secrets. You cannot give this out. So what can I do? They said you have to rewrite it and make it look more like a pashit pshat on the Chumash and hide the secrets, so to speak. So he rewrote it. They said, no, still not good. It's still too open. You have to rewrite it again. So he rewrote it again. They said, no, still too open. You have to rewrite it again. So he rewrote it again. And he kept rewriting it until they said, okay, now it's hidden enough. It looks like a regular pirush on the Chumash, and only great people will be able to discern and see the great secrets that you revealed over here. And then he looked at it and said, wait. He saw it was word for word pirush Rashi on the Chumash. That Rashi had also done that. So now, we take a look in Rashi. What does Rashi say on the words in Parshas Miketz, Kapitel Mem Beis, Pasuk Chof Aleph? Aval, ashamed of Menachni. Aye, it's our fault. That's why this is happening to us, that Yosef is accusing us of what he's accusing us. What does the word aval mean? It says Rashi from the Targum, bekushta. What does the word kushta mean? Kushta means emet. The emet is, it's our fault. What does that mean, the emet is, it's our fault? How do we understand that? So in a deeper level, what is Rashi trying to say, bekushta? That the original reaction is, this is a mad king. He's out of his mind. What are you accusing me? Fake news. We're not spies. We came to buy bread. Deeper than that, they said, he thinks we're spies. But this doesn't make any sense. We came to buy bread, and he's accusing us of being spies. There's a reason that we have to go through this. Something is going on in our lives. Let's not lose track of it. That's what they were saying. Aval Hashem Menachni. Because if this person starts yelling and screaming at us, I could say, that security guard, I want him fired. I want him fired. How dare him say that? Or you can be a Rav Quinn and say, the fact that he yelled at me, that's his issue. Why did God put me in this situation that he yelled at me? Let me think how I can make myself a better person. And that's what the Shvatim said. If we're experiencing this kind of a situation, never mind whether he's normal, is not, he's a Democrat, he's a Republican, he is deranged, he's not deranged, he's screaming, he's not screaming. Stop, it's irrelevant. Why are we going through this? Let's not lose track. Let's try to understand it. Let's try to understand why this is happening to us. Now, please, this may get a little involved, but I'll do my best to explain it. Afterwards, the Pasuk says, Aval Hashem Menachnu, it's our fault, because we sold Yosef, we have no Rachmanit on him. Al Kain Ba Aleinu Hatzara Hazot. Therefore, this tzara came upon us. Rashi points out on the word Ba, which means, therefore it came, the trop, meaning the musical connotation, is under the bays. Rashi does this several times in Chumash. When you have the word ba'a, to come, it's either ba or ba'a. Now, I know digduk is not our favorite, grammar is not our favorite topic, right? Grammar is not my favorite topic either, trust me. I used to give a speech someplace, whenever I finished, someone came over and started correcting my grammar every day. It was like he made gave a Gemara shir. He used to call me every night. He drove me nuts, this person. He was mamish my kapara for the day. And one day he called, he said, today I found no mistakes. Baruch Hashem. Not like yesterday that you said this, and 2 days ago you said that, and 3 days ago I said, I'm much better off with a mistake, than I only don't get Chazrat Hashir of the entire time. So this person that kept coming over to me, correcting my mistakes, I told someone, he's driving me crazy. Someone said, you know what? Go over to him and tell him he should teach you digduk. He teach you digduk. So I went over to him. This way he'll feel good about himself, and just the opposite. You'll become like his talmid. He'll stop bothering you. I said, that's a great idea. I went over to him. I said, can you please teach me digduk? He says, not digduk, digduk. I said, forget it. But the truth is that there is a difference in digduk, alkain ba'a or ba'a. If the stress is on the bays or the stress is on the aleph. Rashi points out on this pasuk, tamoy bebeis. It doesn't say alkain ba'a aleinu hatzara hazois. It says alkain ba aleinu hatzara hazois. Lefi shehu beloshen avai. It is a loshen of past. Shekvar ba. In other words, if it would say ba'a, it would mean it is coming. If it says ba'a with the stress on the bays, it means that it came. Why is that so important here? The brothers are saying, oy vey, this is our fault, that's why we have this tzara. What does that mean it came? What is Rashi trying to say? It came as, it's nothing new, as a result of what happened. Now, it's very hard to run our lives this way, and figure out exactly when something goes wrong, what we have to fix. We don't have Ruach HaKodesh. But I think HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants us more just to try to be better than getting it right. Rabbi Victor Miller, there's a famous story, he's walking and someone stopped him and says, I want to start learning Gemara. Should I learn Gemara, Rashi, and Tosfos, or just Gemara? He said, no, learn just Gemara. He started to walk and he tripped and he almost fell. You okay? And he turned around, Hatzala, no, call back that man. He said, with Tosfos. That's what he understood, what he had. Now, the trick in life is that when something happens, nothing just happened. My wallet! Oh no, right? You're backing up into a parking place, you're in a rush, and you hear that sound of crunch as the person's headlight behind you goes. You know? Couldn't crash into a dumpster, it had to be into someone's car. And you're saying, why me? Why me? Stop right there. Instead of saying, why me, in the illusion of a taina, why do you do this to me, God? I don't have enough problems. Instead, okay, why me? Let me understand why this happened. For sure it was a kapara. For sure Hashem always gives the kapara in the easiest way. Thank you, Hashem. But let me try to understand what was happening. And then there's something deeper in this. When I speak to little children, I like to use this mashal, parable, but you should know we're all a little bit of a child. Imagine a little boy goes to sleep, right? In the imagination of little children. There's a tap on his window. Knock, knock. Kid looks out the window. There's a malach there. Hi, hi. Grown-ups would get scared. He says, come on in. The malach says, they sent me from Shemayim to give you something. And he gives him a bunch of index cards. Thank you, thank you. What's this? I want to tell you that tomorrow is going to be a very special day in your life. It's going to be a day that's going to be a great building block for your future. Thank you. But what's a building block? It's good, don't worry. But in order to get up there, you're going to have to go through these things. Okay, let me see. What am I going to have to go through? You're going to wake up in the morning, your netilat yadayim water, your negel vasa water is going to be there, you're going to step into it. It's going to spill and splash on your brother. He is going to scream at you. You're going to start running around, your wet socks are going to be splashing all over the place. Your mother's going to come in, she's going to go, Yankel, what are you doing? You're going to come downstairs, you're going to see there's no milk left for your cereal. Instead, you're going to pour orange juice. And even that, your mother's going to say, go upstairs, put away your shoes. By the time you come down, it's going to be soggy. You're going to get onto the bus. Each one is a different card. And another boy is going to be sitting in your seat. You're going to say, please leave my seat. Leave me alone. Please leave my seat. This is my seat. I sit here every day. And he's going to call out to the bus monitor, Chesky's bothering me. Chesky, you again? Go sit in the back of the bus. Me. You're going to go to the back of the bus. You're going to sit down on a bag of potato chips. Plots is going to fly all over the place. The owner of the potato chips is going to come. He's going to start yelling at you. And he has the whole thing down pat. And these are the things you're going to go through. And then it's going to be a good day, right? If you pass all these nisyonot, it's going to be a special day for you, for your future. Great. And all of a sudden, the kid wakes up, v'nei chalom, it was a dream. And he wakes up in the morning, he's so excited, he wants to tell his mother about the malach, but he forgot about it. Because as he jumped out of bed, he steps into the water. Bah! Oh, it's supposed to happen, right? He starts running, it splashes on his brother, the brother starts yelling at him, on schedule. He starts running, his socks are all wet, they're splashing all over the place. His mother, what are you doing? Yeah, that's maybe a little louder. I think the malach said a little bit louder. A little more emotion. What are you doing? Oh, that's better. Okay, got it. Now we're on schedule, okay? And he comes down, there's no milk, and there's orange juice, and it gets soggy, and he gets onto the bus, and the monitor says to him, excuse me, move. You're supposed to scream. Move! Oh, that's better. And he sits down on the potato chips, breaks, everything. And the kid is so happy. He's looking at this kid. Are you out of your mind? What are you so happy about? He says, no, it's all going according to schedule. So now, and what if I told you, as Mashal is brought down to the Svarim, that when these things happen, and as we get older, they happen in different ways, it was all part of the schedule. Let me not blow it, because today is a very special day for me. Whatever agmas nefesh, whatever difficulties we face, it's never easy. Not easy for me, not easy for anyone. But if we close our eyes and we say this is nothing new, it's not by chance, it didn't happen by random. There was an index card, I just didn't get it. I got a big book before I was born, and it was broken up into different pages. So yes, tefillah changes things, but I'm talking on an elementary level. Things are following the GPS route. It's the way it's supposed to be. It makes life a lot easier. So somebody once came to Rabbi Twersky and said, what should I do? He's a big psychiatrist. He said, he writes this in his book, this story, says, I'm a crazy football fan. I love the Jets. And my wife is a football widow, and she made a decision. She told me either it's the Jets or me. I didn't want to tell her who I picked. What should I do? I can't. I Sunday afternoon to watch my team, and I scream and I yell. And when they drop a ball and they fumble as an intercept, I scream, I go crazy. What should I do? I can't. So he tells me what I want you to do, okay? He says, I don't want you to watch the game live. I want you to watch it recorded. And I know what's going to happen. It's nothing. It's not. You don't understand. It's not how watching football games work. He says, no, it's what I want you to do. I want you to record the game, and I want you to hide yourself from any information. Put away your smartphone, no sports information. Do not listen to any radio. Listen to Kol Mavasa, read the Hamadiyah. They do not have a good sports section. You won't find out if the Jets won or not. No, nothing. You understand? And then watch the game. So you're going to be just as excited because you don't know who won or lost. So he tries it. He says, I watched the game, but I wasn't screaming. I wasn't yelling. I wasn't going, are you blind? What? No, you pass. Oh, I don't believe he missed the field goal. I didn't do that. I was just watching. But what's interesting is, it's not like I knew what the outcome of the game was. So why weren't you so excited? Why wasn't your blood pressure like going through the roof? So the answer is because I knew that whatever happened, happened already. So I could scream, do this, do that. No, next time pass. No, next time run. A different formation, right? Change the linebackers. I know what I'm talking about. I could think, let me correct it in the future. But this frustration, as if I could control it from sitting in front of my television screen. Somehow if I bang hard enough, they're going to play better. No, it happened already. Now imagine in our lives, if we said whatever is supposed to happen to us is already written. Our job is to live the script. So of course, we still have to face the ups and downs. Of course, it's not easy. But do you understand how much we would much more be emotionally at peace with it? How much easier it would be for us? How much more menuchas hanefesh we would have? And therefore, when the Shvatim were faced with the impossible, how are we going to survive this? He's accusing us of the worst thing of being a spy in Mitzrayim. We'll never come out alive. We have an old father at home. Our children are going to starve from hunger. The trillion questions and no answers. So they said, Aval Ashemim Anachnu. It's our fault. Asher inu tzoras nafshoy deschan noyaleinu. And because of that, ba'a hatzara hazois. This is nothing new. Whatever happened, happened already. Whatever is written, is written already. And therefore we will be able to deal with this crisis. And that is the meaning of Avelus. Shlomo HaMelech says in Mishlei, Toiv leleches el beis avol, better go to a mourner's house than to go to a beis hamishta. Does he want tragedies to take place? Chas v'shalom. What happens when a person goes to a mourner's house? He says, you know what? No one lives forever. That's it. No one beat the system yet. People say there are two things you can't beat, death and taxes. But we all know only one is really true. Unfortunately, there are those that try to get away with things, although it is wrong, and it is shaloka halacha, and it is a chil Hashem. And it 99.9% does not work. But death, no one got away with. No one. Even Hiram Melech Tzor that lived for 1,000 years. No one gets away with it. So think. Don't you think that your life is here, you're here for a different purpose? That the troubles that you are having is digging a foundation for something that is greater. The purpose of Avelus is not to depress us. The purpose of Avelus is that moment that Rav Quinn sat down and said, why did this happen to me? How do I change my life? I have to go around with a smile. It's not an excuse that I'm 90 years old. That is the purpose of Avelus. Rabbi Aryeh Kaplan in his book Encounters writes a very profound thought. Imagine a fetus in his mother's womb. The fetus has a mouth, but the mouth is totally sealed. And the fetus is thinking, why in the world did Hashem create this mouth for me? He doesn't eat through his mouth. He eats through a pipe that goes into his navel. Why do I need his mouth for? He doesn't have teeth yet, but I guess the roots of the teeth, something, what? Hands, feet, what? What do I need it for? I'm in this pool, I'm going round. Crazy, who designed me? But the second he's born, he says, now he knows why he needs a mouth. And now he knows why he needs hands, and now he knows why he needs feet. And he prays for it at every given moment. This elderly gentleman goes to a doctor, he says, my right foot hurts. He says, listen, you're 96 years old, it's entitled to hurt. He says to the doctor, you chacham, my left foot is just as old, how come that doesn't hurt? Don't blame it on the age. Treat me, okay? So when the child is born, suddenly it makes sense to him, things that made absolutely no sense. Why he has a mouth, why he has hands, why he has feet. So in this phase of life that we are in now as well, there are things taking place in our life that we say, why? Why is Hashem doing this to us? Why do I have to go through this challenge? Why do I have to go through this with a partner? Why? Why do I have to go through this with a spouse? Why do I have to go through this with my children? Why? Why in my business, as soon as I get it straight, someone else steals my secrets from me? Why? And the answer is just like the baby. The fetus doesn't know why he has hands. You don't know why you're in this particular situation. The inyan of Avelus is not to be mitzayer us, it's to be mechazik us. The inyan of Avelus is to say, yes, we're not going to live forever. That means there are things going on in my life now that has been prepared for a next world. Rav Shach once came to visit someone. They just lost a father and a mother and a child in a terrible accident. And he explained that when he was in Europe, the Russians came by and asked if you want citizenship or not. And many of the yeshiva bachrim said no. And for that they were arrested and sent off to Siberia. And the other ones laughed. Fools, why did you say no? You don't know the Russian mentality? When they asked you have to say yes. You'll never survive Siberia. And many didn't, but many did. But those that stayed back and weren't sent off to Siberia, none of them survived. Because they were burnt in Auschwitz. So we don't know what's good or what's not good. And a child got up and he began to scream at Rav Shach. He said, but you lived. You lived to survive Siberia, so it made sense, it was worth living. How do you explain death? How do you explain the empty table by the Shabbos table where the father's not there, Rahman al-Islam? So Rav Shach said to him, when we were in Siberia, we didn't think there's going to be another life afterwards. So it must be that there's another life after this life. It's a lot easier said than done. The idea of Avelus is to remind us that life is a window. Aval is a lashon of Avelus. Aval, kushta, it's a reality check. There's a reason that things happen. It had to happen this way. And the truth is, at the end of the day, as much as we think we're in control of our lives, we're not. I once heard, what does it mean? Kishem shenichnes lebris, we say by a baby. Just like the baby goes into bris, kein tichanes leTorah lechuppah ulemasen Torah. No 8-day-year-old baby ever made a decision in terms of his own bris. It never happened. Should we serve lox or whitefish? The baby never piked up and said, whitefish. Never happened. The baby never said, that's the moel you're using. No. Who's going to be my sandik? No, not him. No, what are you doing? Never happened. The baby doesn't seem to have much of a choice. I never saw an 8-day-year-old baby. He says, Kishem shetichanis lebris. If you think you have a choice who you're going to marry, if you think you have a choice later on in life, you have the same choice the baby has. Whatever's supposed to happen is going to happen. So if we don't have a choice, what is our choice? Our choice is the way we accept things. That we say, as we face difficulties in our life, we say, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, I want to come out of this being a better person. It hurts. I'm in pain. It's hard for me to understand why you're doing this. All of those are very valid feelings. Like a child has valid feelings and cries to his mother. I had a discussion with a friend of mine today. He's saying, a baby that cries hard enough will get the piece of chocolate. I said, really? A baby that's allergic to chocolate, will he get the piece of chocolate? No, the mother is eventually going to find something else to appease the child with. I said, when? When? Right there and then she has to find it. It has to be the right time and the right place. But during that time period, the child can't understand why the mother is so cruel. Time is the most precious commodity that we have in this world. $1 billion can't buy another split second of life. And life is a window of opportunity. And the greatest opportunity is facing challenges and saying, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, it is so hard for me to believe that this is rachamim, because it is such din. Please help me do the right thing. Please help me lay the foundation and understand that a building is going to be built on this. There's a famous mashal, Ben Ish Chai says, of a king that promised someone, you have an hour in my treasury room, you could fill all your pockets. And the king says, ay, 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 what did I do? So he sends him in, he creates this big, beautiful play, and this unbelievable music, and he walks in, he's watching the play, he's watching the music, and something tells him, don't waste time, but he was so enamored by it, he was so taken in by it, all of a sudden the bell rang, the hour is up. Can I even grab one diamond? Too late. He says, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, they want us to sleep through our lives. We don't realize what a window of opportunity this world is. The value of a penny for tzedakah, $1 for tzedakah, the value of one time not looking at something that you ought not to look at, the value of one time taking a deep breath and saying, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, it is so painful what I'm going through. Please help me believe in you. I don't want to lose my amunah in you. We don't know what that value is down here. It is so chashuv that the Satan wants to do everything within our power to distract us from it. And that is avelus. My father, Zechron Levracha, he learned in Nevardik. Nevardik was a very special place. The Altaf in Nevardik had this shita, it's going to teach people not to be scared of the world, and with Amunah you can have everything. And there's stories, there are legends. They would teach someone to go into a drugstore and ask for a piece of bread. They would ask him, they would laugh at him. It's a drugstore, what are you asking? So later when he knocked on a door of a house and said, give me your child, I want to take him to a cheder in yeshiva. In those days in Europe, they'll laugh at you, but you'll be used to laughing at you. So they said, go into a drugstore and ask for a hammer. They would laugh at you. So now they can knock on the door. You don't have to worry about them laughing at you. There's such a medrash. The Rebbe Kiva, the first day he went to learn Aleph Beis, the kids laughed at him. 40-year-old person, he can't even fit into those little seats. If he gets in, he can't even get out of it. He came back and said, I'm so embarrassed. Little 5-year-old kids are laughing at him. Let me go with my promise that I'll do this. She said, on one condition. You get on a donkey and you cover yourself with carrots, like a carrot tree, and ride around town. And he did it, and the kids were going crazy. They were laughing at him, throwing things at him. He comes back, why did you do this to me? He goes, every single kid is laughing their heads off at me. He says, now you can go back to the cheder. They're laughing at you anyway. So that was the shita of Nevardik. They say that they took someone in his biggest fear, and they said, we're going to break that fear. That's what the Altaf in Nevardik. He knew the war was coming. He wanted to prepare his Talmid. So they said that there was someone that he had an unbelievable fear of cemeteries. 3 o'clock in the morning, he had to go into a cemetery. 3 o'clock in the morning, he walked into a cemetery. He's shivering away. And he walks a little further. You know the story. The man is walking through a cemetery. Someone taps him in the back. He screams, says, what are you screaming? Shoo, he sees another person. Come, let's go together. He says, why are you so worried? He says, when I was alive, I was also so scared like you. So now, this person walks, he says, from the Vardik, he walks into he's scared of cemeteries, he walks into a cemetery in the middle of the night. Then they say, no, you have to do more, you have to walk into the place where the dead bodies are. His hands are shivering and he walks, and there's a dead body covered with a sheet, and he goes, okay, I'm not scared. Einod milvado, I'm not scared. All of a sudden, the dead body gets up, and this guy jumps out the window and runs for his life. Turns out that was a different Nevardik boy that was scared of dying. His job was to lay covered by a sheet. Unfortunately, the two met, so they got a little bit worried. So Rabbi Yaakov Galinsky said that he was told 3 o'clock in the morning to go into the mikvah where they toivel the dead bodies. At 3 o'clock in the morning, he went into the mikvah where they toivel the dead bodies, and he got into the water, and he felt something grab his feet. He says he shot out over there. You think the Guinness Book of World of Records knows who did the 100-yard dash the quickest? He says he flew back into the yeshiva, dove underneath the bench. He was scared and bumps into someone else under the bench. And he goes, well, what are you doing here? He says, I was in the mikvah, and someone came in the middle. Oh, that was you. He says, oh, okay. Now we got it. So, father said they were in the Vardik, they were like arrested in a certain place, and they made up the learning Masechtas Makkos. They took away all the Gemaras from them, and so the people started sending them cheese, and they wrapped the cheese in a page of Gemara. They got 48 pieces of cheese, each wrapped in a different daf, and they put together the daf. So do we know exactly it's the cheese or the Gemara, what we're doing, everything is in the Gemara? So there's a man who went to visit the great Steipler Gaon. Steipler of Chaim Kanievsky's father was the greatest Gaon of his time. Almost. Maybe. And he said something to him, and when he told him where he comes from, a certain town. And it was amazing. The Steipler got up and ran after him and said, please do me a favor, send regards to Yitzchak Stolman. He lives in your town. Steipler wasn't this social butterfly. So he came back to this Yitzchak Stolman. He says, he's an old man. He said, the Steipler sends you regards. Tell me, what was this all about? He says, I was in a Vardige Talmud. And crazy, in the time of war, people were lying in their houses, literally dying of fear. We were walking through the streets trying to build a cheder. And we did. And I came to a certain town in Russia, and I knocked on the door, and the people are crying and screaming, the plaster is falling, bombs are falling, come, give us your children, we're taking them to cheder. I said, well, we're going to die any minute. He says, you could die over here also. We were trained. And one of the boys that they gave us, his name was Yaakov Yisrael, and that was the Steipler. That boy went to cheder, he says, that was me. Right? Do you understand that there's a moment in our life that what we could do? Imagine Chaim Kanievsky, Rebbe, the whole, right? All because of this boy that knocked on the door, that overcame fear. In our lives, that is aval ashemim anachnu. Aval is emes. There's a deeper emes that is deeper than what we understand. And it's all planned out from before. It is kushta, it is emes. And that is the real meaning of the Avelis. Stop. Stop with the steak. Stop with the barbecue. You're not going to be here forever. Life is a window of opportunity. Think, what do you have to fix? If we all fixed what we had to, then the Beit HaMikdash would be built and there will not be any need for metal detectors. He found the Steipler. There's a deeper meaning. There's a meaning of finding ourselves. Today, a Yid told me a story that for many years as a bacher, he worked in the Svarim store in South Fallsburg. The way it was, I don't know if it's still that way, you used to walk through the Svarim store to get to the grocery in the back. The back was like a big thing, and that's how it was set up, because I guess the Svarim store owner wanted when you come out of the grocery, you should come into the Svarim store. And a lot of people would access from Route 42, you'd go through the Svarim store. So all kinds of people came in, and for the one that was managing the store, it was obviously frustrating. So this man walks in, short pants, white hair, Hawaiian shirt, and he says to him, well, in real Galiciana Yiddish, Galicia, what are you selling here? Chamashim, Sidaris, Sidurim, who uses this anymore? What's your problem? Yeah, where was Hashem? You don't know what I went through. Where was he? My father, my grandfather, my brothers, my sisters, where? Who uses this? So he didn't answer him, he says. For 3 years, he came by. Who buys this? The third year, he came by, he says, there's a reason this farm store is still in business. People are buying it. So he said to him, for 3 years, you're asking me this question, Mr. So-and-so. I want to ask you something. Who was your father anyway? Who was your grandfather anyway? They were such naive people. What are you so worried that they were killed? He goes, I'll slap you across your face. Don't you say anything against my father or my grandfather. My father was a great Rav. People from all over came to ask him Shalot. My grandfather was a great Rav. People from all over came to ask him Shalot. Yeah, but they're so naive. They read about the Spanish Inquisition. They read about the pogroms in Russia and the massacres of Tach. Why did they stay Rabbanim, Talmidei Chachamim? Why weren't they as smart as you to say no one needs Svarim anymore? He was like trap. And suddenly he says, did they sell tefillin over here? He says, yes, there's a sofa in the back that does sell tefillin. He walks to the back, he takes out a wad of cash. He says, I was saving up to buy a boat. He lives in the winter in Florida. I want to buy tefillin. And he says he put on the tefillin and he started to cry like a little baby. He said the last time he put on tefillin was in Europe, the days the Nazis came into his town. There is a moment, we can't judge anybody, we cannot judge anyone. But there is a moment that we can have such an effect on someone else. And you know then what the whole purpose of the Svarim story is. It doesn't explain why the Spanish Inquisition happened. It doesn't explain why World War II happened. There's no way to. It doesn't explain why 3 people were killed on Friday night. On this world, it's impossible to explain. But it does explain that the building, as much as this is so impossible to understand, the schar of it will be even greater. I'll say one last thing. The son of the Rebbe Melech, I think today was his yahrzeit, his name was Rebbe Lazar of Lezhensk. They say when he came up to Shemayim, whatever, like everyone else, there was a din, there was a challenge to him. And Malachim are bringing in his mitzvahs. And a woman comes with a long beam. And the beam was so long, I couldn't imagine I was bringing into this room a beam that was, 8 by 8. You know what I mean? 30 feet long. It doesn't fit to the door. What are you doing? And she brings it in. What's this? Says this woman, she had a fire. And she was living on the street. So other people donated wood from around town. They should rebuild her house. She got a kablan that's willing to build it, but you have to get the wood. She couldn't get anyone to get the wood. So Rebbe Lazar, he saw no one is doing it. People were scared to go out. The Jews had accused, the Goyim had accused the Jews, the Gentiles, that they started the fire. He went out and started dragging the wood himself to this woman's house so the kablan can keep his word and build her a shelter. There was one beam that was a main beam. It was so he couldn't get anyone to bring it. He took him for 3 hours. He dragged it in the freezing cold, long beam, and collapsed as he put it down in front of her. He was a great tzaddik beyond imagination. But in Shemayim, what stood? That long beam. When that long beam is in your way, just remember, this is what you're going to stand on to build your house that's going to last forever. A house that is the prelude, as the Shem Yisborach, to the house of Bayit Shlishi, which we built in Meher of Yimei.